Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
What is the most compelling evidence for Bigfoot you have ever encountered? Give me the good stuff. Photos, videos, footprints, skeletal remains, etc.
Be 16 years old. I live in British Columbia, Canada. Me and a close friend of mine decided to go camping for 4 days during spring break. Meet at my place in the early hours of the morning with all our equipment. Friend is just about 18 and also has his N driver's license. He brings with him his dad's Lee Enfield .308 rifle. I ask my mother if I can take my Israeli Mauser in .308. Grudgingly, she says yes, as the bears are starting to wake up and may want a food source. Take all the needed gear, such as a tent and a few other goodies like MREs, water filters, ammo, etc. Throw our gear into the back of my older friend's truck and set off. A smooth 1-hour drive out of town takes us to some very forests, which continue right up till the Rockies, if I remember right. Park his car and load our rucksacks and grab our guns. Both of us are carrying stripper clips and a lot of ammunition, as we also intend to do some target shooting. Hike for a good 7 kilometers before we notice the first weird thing. A large tree, maybe 15 years old, has been broken at the base. What's weird is that it must have been something really big, as the base of a tree is the strongest part. No beavers, as the nearest lake is 5 kilometers ahead of us, our camping spot. No boulders falling down, as that area of the forest is flat. A WTF.jpg. Shrug it off as friend teases that it could be Bigfoot. Whatever. Walk another kilometer and have lunch, which consists of MREs. By around 5 p.m. in the afternoon, we reached our campground. A lake which was decent in size, however you could see all around it. An old-ass abandoned cabin on the other side. The cabin looks as old as 1900s kind of old. Set up our tent as well as a small shooting range to peg shit with bullets and make our skills razor sharp. Attempt to go swimming, however the water is so cold as all the snow had recently melted. Decide to walk around to the cabin straight across from us on the other side of the lake. On the way over to see some big-ass footsteps in mud. That's no bear.gif. We both get a little freaked out by this and consider moving our tent. We decided not to, after shrugging it off and remembering we both had high-powered rifles. Keep in mind his Enfield has 10.308 rounds in a mag, and my Mauser has 5.308 rounds. We can stop anything dead in its tracks in pretty much one hit. Cabin's door is long since gone. Dust on the floor. Another footprint in dust. Screw this .png. We leave the cabin immediately and walk back to camp. Inspect camp to make sure nothing has been messed around with. We are both paranoid now. Decide to do some target shooting around 7 p.m. to maybe ward anything that is curious off. Unload between us a good 25 bullets. Rip to the cans downrange. Come around 8 p.m. and we are getting ready for bed, as the sun has just slipped below the horizon. We both go to sleep feeling a little better after expelling some rounds from our rifles. Around 11 p.m. I wake up to a normal night. Normal-ass forest sounds around me. None of that cliché silent forest bull. Everything seems normal. Get out and shine a flashlight around and send a raccoon diving for cover. While scanning over the lake, I see something. Come back to it and see that I am looking at 2 sets of eyes who are looking right back at me. The eyes reflect from the light. I can't see a torso. Immediately wake up my friend. Yell across the lake and say, "Hello." Eyes keep staring. Friend emerges carrying his weapon and ammo. We start making loud noises to try and ward this thing off. It won't leave. Prop flashlight on rock to face the set of eyes. We both take aim just below the eyes for a body shot. Boom. Boom. Both our rifles explode into life, and we hear a distinct thwap noise as they strike home. The noise that followed still haunts me. Thra! We both immediately make follow-up shots. We hear one of our bullets hit a tree, but the other makes the same thwop noise before. 3 rounds hit whatever this thing is. Did we just kill Bigfoot.png? No more noise is heard until 2 a.m. A large snapping noise is heard about 400 meters away behind the cabin. We both fired off 2 more shots into the woods. Nothing else is heard for the rest of the evening. As soon as the sun rises at 6:30 a.m., we pack our stuff up. We go across the lake before leaving and inspected the area. Whatever was looking at us was inside the cabin. Go inside, weapons raise. Huge pool of blood right below the front window. It's dried, so we assume it's no use. Large hole in the wall behind the window. That was the 1 round that missed. We don't go back to see if another tree has fallen. On the hike back, we had a rather large boulder land less than 5 feet from us. We hip-fired in its direction. We are not disturbed again and make it back to the truck okay. There is a large dent in the right door of the car. Also evidence of something making a very large attempt at entering the vehicle. Drive home and tell Mom. I have no idea what that thing was, but whatever it was got some lead in it. I refuse to go back to those woods and refuse to go camping in British Columbia alone.
Be 15 at the time. Parents moved to British Columbia, Canada. 16 acres. 3 acres of it is fenced in. A trailer and a small building 20 meters away from the trailer. The trailer has 2 bedrooms in it. Little bro gets the bedroom. Have to sleep in the man cave. The man cave, when we first got it, had concrete floors and pool table holes in the wall. One hell of a party. MP3. Today, it's really nice. Heated floors, bathroom TV, etc. Anyways, first night there, it's very cold. Get up in the middle of the night to turn on the heat. As I'm burning my feet on the cold-ass concrete, I hear something. Sounds like scratching coming from my door. Note: my door leads straight out to the forest. Any animal can come directly to my front doorstep. Crank the heat and run to my bed. Grab my tiny ass knife. Don't get any sleep that night. Time goes on, and I get used to the sound. I just assumed it was a raccoon or something. Installed sensor lights on the outside of the man cave. Playing vidya on the TV there. Hear scratching again. Ignore it. Notice out the corner of my eye, the sensor light right outside my door goes off. Look at the door. I nearly crap myself at what I see. It's humanoid looking, and it's peeking through my window on the door. Scream like a little coward and get my knife. It's gone as soon as I scream. No sleep that night. Confront my stepdad about it the next day. I say he did it. Swears on his left nut it wasn't him. Yeah, sure. Prepare for next night. Playing vidya again. Sensor light comes on. Look. Sure enough, that thing was there. Since I think it's my dad, I grab my knife and head to the door. It hasn't noticed me. Go right under the window on my door. Jump up. Try the knife in hand and try to scare my stepdad. It's not my stepdad. It's not my stepdad. This thing is crouched down. If it stood up, it'd be 7 feet tall. Extremely black eyes. Or no eyes, I don't know. It actually gets scared. It screams, revealing his teeth, which almost look like human teeth. Can't place my finger on the scream. It wasn't human, that's for sure. It runs away. Make sure it's gone. Run to the trailer. Stepdad grabs shotgun and dog. Tries to find it. Can't. Spend the next 2 weeks living in that trailer. It's been almost a year since that incident, and my sensor light still goes off from time to time.
While I was in the Marine Corps, we would be stalked by these Bigfoot creatures at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. It didn't matter how many of us were out there. We were armed with rifles and no ammo, and/or blanks during field ops. They would pick up whatever trash or snacks we would drop. We sometimes could see their eyes in the tree line and see random glimmers of shadows through our night optics. But you can see outlines and/or someone's figure. I mean, like stuff that was used probably during the early 2000s, and they were monocular. We would hear knocks or rustling throughout our nights around Verona Loop training grounds or on Camp Lejeune. Many of us who spent time in the infantry spend about 45 to 60% of the year in the woods. You could hear them at night. One night I was doing patrol ops in the woods and we decided to take a pause. It was around 3 a.m. and we were taking a nap break. It was during a war game and I was on watch with one of my buddies. Holding security, we saw an outline in the woods, and meanwhile, we were sleep deprived, not thinking we were seeing real things in the tree line till we talked to each other to confirm what we were seeing through our nods. Pebbles were being thrown at us and we were confused, thinking we were about to be run up on by the opposition force. So we wake up our guys slowly thinking we're about to be ambushed. Turns out we were being stalked. We decided to get into defensive positions and the rocks kept coming, thinking we were being messed with by the advisors running around overwatching the war game. We checked on the radio if there were any nearby. None. None at all. So we thought it was the opposition force. We opened up with blanks. But as we opened up, we saw a massive creature and another one about 25 to 30 meters away. The creatures knocked over a semi-thin tree and gave a deep growl, something that would shake guys who were desensitized and not really scared by anything. When daylight came, we circled back to look and we found huge footprints. We were so confused and shaken. After that situation, we didn't know how to explain what we saw or experienced. That night, I became an actual believer. I was always skeptical about Bigfoot or some creature being in the woods. It was about 5 years ago. To this day, I struggle to go into the woods.
Grew up in British Columbia, mostly in Victoria, but I've got family all over. Live on the East Coast now. Definitely a lot less weird over here, even though it's got a lot older, European remnants. I've experienced a lot of spirit ghost sensory stuff, even saw one briefly. I know I didn't imagine it, because my girlfriend at the time and a random dude walking behind us all saw it too. Aside from the visual, the feeling accompanying it was intense. My current girlfriend lived on Vancouver Island for a long time too. She's a lot more sensitive to the supernatural, kind of a witchy hippie type person. She told me a story about an entity spirit that resided in a cave that grabbed her and dragged her into a cave. Not really my story, but I'll do my best. Happened during the deforestation protests back 15-ish years ago. She's camped out with First Nations and hippie protesters. Guy she met there is a weird spiritual sort of dude. Seems kinda schizo to me, but she claims he can see and communicate with paranormal entities. Dude camps out at this cave that goes deep into the mountain and warns others to stay away. Tells people to never bring weapons near there, under any circumstances. Not safe for them. WTF. Girlfriend goes to visit him. She always carries a knife on her or in her purse, even today. Knife, securely on her belt, comes off and goes flying into the cave. She's scared shitless. Dude is going, "No, no, no. I said no weapons." Something grabs her by the legs and hauls her off her feet, starts dragging her towards the cave. She can't see anything, but whatever it is, it's far stronger than a human. Buddy starts talking to the entity, assuring it that she's a friend and meant no harm. He vouches for her. Thing lets go after dragging her 6 feet. She apologizes to the entity, and dude, then skedoodles. Wakes up the next day with her knife next to her in her tent. Asked dude and he claimed he never goes into the cave and didn't retrieve it for her.
In the 1980s, my dad was stationed at the Alameda Naval Air Station near San Francisco. He and some of his shipmates decided to go camping while on leave. They drove to a sporting goods store, I believe near Berkeley, to get what they needed. While there, they met 2 professors from the University of Berkeley. Apparently, these 2 professors were greenhorns, as my dad called them, and knew nothing about camping or supplies, so they asked my dad to help them pick out what they needed. Then they told my dad that a logging company had contacted them at the university and asked them to come up to Northern California and investigate some large animal that was destroying things in one of their logging camps. They told my dad that someone or something was causing havoc in the area and the workers couldn't get anything done. It was terrifying the loggers. My dad explained to the professors that he and his family operated as hunting guides in western Colorado, San Luis Valley area near Wolf Creek Pass. So he was very skilled at tracking. They asked if he and his buddies wanted to come up with them and help track. I don't know exactly where he said they went, but I do remember it was near the California and Oregon state line, and I believe close to the ocean, but I could be off on that detail. He said when they got to the camp and scouted around the area, they found several giant footprints and plaster cast them. He said it looked like something or someone was scouting or walking around the perimeter of the camp. He went on that the workers took them to the fuel depot, where there were several footprints up to a collection of 55-gallon drums of diesel fuel. Something had walked up to, then around the depot, and then finally picked up one of the barrels and then carried it off towards a nearby ravine. He said that the footprints became significantly deeper as the creature walked away from the fuel storage area, which would indicate that whatever had picked up the barrel had carried it without sitting down, and then threw both the barrel and also a large tractor tire into the ravine. Then it walked back into the woods. That night, they had a fire going and everyone was sitting around it drinking beers and shooting the breeze. After a while, my dad said he noticed eye shine that appeared to be 8 to 9 feet high just outside the firelight watching them. He told me that he'd quietly work his way back away from the group, then he circled around the camp as quietly as he could to sneak up on whatever was standing close by. He said that no matter how hard he tried, including removing his boots and trying to sneak up in his socks, he never could get anywhere near whatever creature had the eye shine, and that it really frustrated him as a professional tracker because he couldn't get close to the animal. He'd return to the group, and 10 minutes later, the eye shine would return, and he'd quietly try again. Over the years, I asked him several times, "Do you think that was a Bigfoot?" Immediately, he would respond, "No, I can't say it was a Bigfoot because I never actually saw the animal. However, we did find some very large footprint tracks. I know that there was something really big out there that is a better tracker than me, and whatever it is, it had really big feet. But exactly what I saw out there, I have no idea what it was."
Spooky story from the Cascade Mountains. Me and 3 friends go to the hidden lake. Google it. End up not sleeping at the lookout. Coming down as sun sets, beautiful mountains, wonderful day. Dark. We have only headlamps and phone flashlights. Oppressive feeling, nothing malicious. Dark woods in a mountain spooky. Driving down the 5-mile very shitty forest road. Still air, no wind. Ferns along the road are spinning. Imagine if they had a string tied to the end of them and were being yanked so they kinda spinning around fast. Some areas all are spinning, some only a few spin. Some none. We are tired as balls and cracking jokes about it. And oh, fairies, oh, the gnomes, ooh, the skinwalkers, and Bigfoots. Halfway down, ferns are spinning like mad in the headlights of the car, going about 5 miles per hour because the car was not lifted. A sapling falls from the woods and breaks over the car. We stop and get out and take it off the car. Ferns spinning still. Feel spooked. No malice, just this strange air of wonder and a feeling to keep moving. Don't touch the ferns. We all look at each other and decide to just leave. Drive down. Ferns stopped spinning about 3/4 a mile from the exit to the scenic highway that leads back to the main road. Stop and get snacks in town. A beautiful little valley town by the river, and a very nice store. Totally Bigfoot magic though. Also, if you believe in the Bigfoot structures, I've seen them in the woods here. 8 to 15-foot trees uprooted, jammed into the earth upside down in rough teepee shapes. Always jaggedly broken, sometimes uprooted for the smaller ones. If you ever see an uprooted and impaled tree or teepee structure, yeah, guess who made that?
Me around 16 years old, living in rural Colorado, essentially in the Rocky Mountains. Dad loves to backpack and hike, and I've been hiking since I was 1 year old. We are both into paranormal stuff. He says he's seen ghosts several times, and potentially even Bigfoot. I am more skeptical, fascinated by Bigfoot stuff, but mostly from a thought experiment sort of standpoint. We decided to go backpacking during fall break at this trail pretty far from where we live. The place is beautiful, with lots of ponderosa and aspen. One landmark of the trail we're about to do is a section that covers 1,000+ feet of elevation in like a super short area using a ton of switchbacks. Luckily, we were going to be going down the trail rather than the other direction. We see a small party of hikers when we first start the trail, but for the next 3 days we see absolutely no one. We barely saw any wildlife or anything, only a deer, a bat, and the occasional squirrel. Our second night, we decided to camp by this river. The area we set up is in this relatively narrow slot canyon, but not straight up or vertical. On one side, there's this pile of rocks and gravel covering a part of the mountainside. There were some massive boulders around that indicated that huge chunks of the cliff face had broken off before. It was a little sketch, but overall seemed safe. Still confused how we hadn't seen a single person since that first part of the trail. At around 2 to 4 in the morning, still dark out, we hear an extremely loud crashing noise from roughly 50 meters back up the trail in the direction we came from. It sounded something like several cymbals being clanged together, the sprinkling sound of a firework, and the pure thump of an extremely heavy object hitting dirt. We both wake up after hearing it, and we get out for a bit to make sure nothing screwed up is happening. Nothing happens, so we head back to sleep. The next morning, we walked a good 500 meters in both directions, following the trail to see if a boulder had fallen into the water or something. We find nothing new. There's no broken branches, torn up dirt, nothing. I'm not saying this was Bigfoot or anything. All I'm saying, I have no clue what it could have been. We're both a little creeped out due to how bizarre it was, but overall we weren't scared for our lives or anything crazy like that. We decide to haul ass on the third day and walk an extra mile or two to the end of the trail. Still have no idea what it could have been. I suppose it could have been a boulder, but we probably would have heard it coming down the mountain or found the new boulder.
This occurred around 1998 or 99 to a close friend of mine who just recently brought it up again. I usually don't like to recount other people's stories, but my friend would never be the type to share this experience with any individual he didn't personally know, so here I am. My friend's family lived on a busy street in Wayne, New Jersey. Behind the house was a pool and deck with a yard and a wooded area beyond. One summer afternoon, he, his brother and his mother were sitting around the pool on the deck when they heard an unusual rustling up a tree on the fringe of the wooded area. Looking up, they saw what my friend described as a large, brown, gorilla-like creature. It was perched on a branch while vigorously shaking another smaller branch above it, which was causing the loud ruffling sound that had caught their attention. As they stared at this thing dumbfounded, they were close enough to realize that it was staring right back at them as it shook the branch. Then, after about a minute, it dissolved into the treetops and deeper into the woods. It was the summer, so they quickly lost sight of it among the dense foliage and didn't dare trail it into the woods due to the freakiness of it all. The next day, I was invited over to hang out and go swimming at his pool, and that's when he told me what had happened the previous day. As he was telling me, he pointed out the tree and branch on which the gorilla appeared. It was a towering tulip poplar, and the branch which he pointed out had to be about 50 or 55 feet high. I asked him why they didn't call the police, and he said that if they ever saw it again, they would. To this day, my friend will say that he and his family still do not know what it was, but in the same breath, he'll also say it had to be a guy in a gorilla suit because there is no other explanation. If it were a guy in a gorilla suit, he would have been extraordinarily athletic, since he was able to climb roughly 50 feet up a bare trunk and acrobatically maneuver from tree to tree. I also asked him if it could have been someone's pet monkey, but he said it was too big, and was definitely either an ape or a person dressed like one. There are no zoos remotely close from which a gorilla could have escaped, and if there was such an animal on the loose, I'm sure it would have been big news. I suppose we'll never know who or what it was in the treetops of Wayne that day.
I currently live in Springfield, Massachusetts, and in May of 1973 I was a U.S. Marine. We did a battalion-sized exercise in an area of California known as Casey Springs. We were told that there were no roads to get there. We were inserted by helicopter. I was sent out on a midnight ambush with 15 other Marines. It was a computerized war game. It worked on the computer, and so they sent Marines out to see if it could be feasibly done. What we did was we were going after an aggressor force. We set up a linear ambush shaped like an L, and when your victims walk into it, it's a computer kill. Well, we set up this ambush at midnight and we had 2 individuals walk into our ambush. We opened fire with blanks and, as it turns out, we thought they were bears. So we scrambled, shooting our blanks at these individuals, and they separated. One went one way and the other went the other way. We got back to our PPB, which is our platoon-sized patrol base, and we told our lieutenant what happened. He radioed it to our commander. This was the first night of a 4-day war game and it was canceled. We were given orders to light a large fire, get a fixed bayonet, and stand on a 360 around our blazing fire. All through that night we heard high-pitched screams. The only way I can describe it was that of a death call of a bear. And in the morning we had 2 helicopters come in with base game wardens and some other fellas. To this day, I don't know who they are. We were made to bring them back to the area where this happened. 2 of the individuals walked where we directed them and we were ordered to leave the area. And this is something the Marine Corps does not do, to cancel a computerized war game. There were over 3,000 Marines involved in this, the logistics and the money that was spent on this, and it was canceled.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentexts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.